Hi, my name is Brian Venton and welcome to another Words of Hope Pastoral Conversation. I've called this chat the Doomsday Clock, and it's certainly an off-putting title, but hear me out. I'm coming at this theme from a pastoral perspective. Our reading comes from 1 Thessalonians 5, and it says this: "And we urge you, brothers, admonish the idle, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all, see that no one repays evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to everyone. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." The Conversation Media Group in Victoria recently published opinion pieces called "The Doomsday Clock is Still at 90 Seconds to Midnight," and one called "Can We Really Predict the End of the World?" They concluded, doomsday predictions are rarely informative, but good ones can be directive, and they urge us to fix the world. Then the World Economic Forum recently published their 2024 Global Risk Report, concluding a predominantly negative outlook for the world over the next 2 years that is expected to worsen over the next decade. But it's the non-mainstream media commentary that is far less sanitised and perhaps more realistic. The suggestion is that 2024 will be a pivotal year of unprecedented change. It got me thinking pastorally how to respond and prepare ourselves for what might lay ahead. I think today's reading is helpful. First, be informed. C.S. Lewis once said this: "One of the most cowardly things ordinary people do is to shut their eyes to facts." Now, there's a lot of truth to that statement. However, facing truth is not particularly easy. It often challenges our thinking, our cultural proclivities, and can be downright frightening on other occasions. And as we think about unfolding doomsday scenarios, how does our text suggest we should respond? Well, one thought is to admonish the idle. We all know that there will always be lazy thinkers in our world, or people who choose to disengage, or people who are fence-sitters and indifferent. Awakening them is not easy. But there are also a lot of other people who are faint-hearted, as the text says, despairing for hope, full of anxiety, weighed down with fear and uncertainty. Probably more people than we realise, and the prospect of dark horizons for many people sends them into a complete emotional spin. We're also exhorted here to help the weak, to help those who feel utterly helpless, who feel disenfranchised and perhaps powerless to even face the truth. We are told to exercise patience with everyone who, for whatever reason, find themselves in difficult spaces. So how do we get informed? I suggest it's important to become discerning of what's happening around us, to join the dots between information streams, to relate the normally unrelated. Perhaps a good place to start is to broaden out our information sources and begin questioning the mainstream storylines of our time. For example, why are we hearing so much about misinformation and disinformation in our social discourse? Why would governments globally be contemplating legislative censorship? Or why would the recent World Economic Forum conference in Davos have a theme of rebuilding trust if there wasn't a perceived trust issue globally? What does that mean? Well, why is it that we have farmers the world over protesting in Canada, in the Netherlands, Germany, Lithuania, and even in Australia? Why is it that agriculture and farming is under so much sustained attack? Having an inquisitive and questioning mind helps us to better face the unknown. However, there's another dynamic presented here. That is, to understand the nature of evil. It's a big subject, but the text raises the issue. It says, don't repay evil with evil. Now, I suggest to say this is to imply that it is possible to repay evil for evil. I ask myself the question, what is it that makes evil evil, and how can I be sure that I'm not adding evil to evil by my actions? And I suggest that we cannot engage the apparent world chaos around us without coming to terms with the whole notion of evil. We either accept a secularist or philosophical view of evil, or we embrace a theological and biblical worldview of evil. The problem of evil has to be confronted. The secularist would argue that the presence of evil is contrary to belief in a sovereign God and a benevolent God. They argue it's illogical to believe in the existence of a God if that same God allows evil to exist. The one would necessarily cancel out the other. On the other hand, Christians see no conflict or inconsistency with belief in the existence of a sovereign God, who is also benevolent, yet allows evil to exist as part of his sovereign purposes in the world. The biblical revelation provides the explanation for the origin of evil, the impact and consequences of that evil, and what God does to resolve the problem for us. I suggest that you and I will never know our propensity for evil unless we begin to see ourselves against this backdrop of a benevolent God who is also sovereign over world affairs. And looking into that mirror, we discover how morally bankrupt we are, our brokenness, our duplicity, our personal hypocrisies, our self-centeredness, and even our wanton rebellion against God's sovereign rule. It's an uncomfortable message, and it's why so much is done to destroy belief in the benevolency nature of God and his sovereign purposes in the world. I think C.S. Lewis makes a very good point when he says, the human spirit will not even begin to try to surrender self-will as long as all seems to be well with it. He says, now error and sin both have this property, that the deeper they are, the less their victim suspects their very existence. They are masked evil. Pain is unmasked, unmistakable evil. Every man knows that something is wrong when he is being hurt. I suggest that until humanity starts to feel pain and hurt and the potential impact of the doomsday scenario, we will probably never turn to God to find a pathway out of our chaos. And sadly, in this sense, and perhaps unknowingly so, we can end up repaying someone else's evil with our own sanitized or hybrid version of evil, and so nothing changes. This is confronting stuff. But there's another response here that I don't want us to miss. That is the importance of discerning God's will for our lives. Text says, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God concerning you. We can understand the rejoicing and the giving thanks part, but it is the prayer component that we often miss. Prayer lets God do a bit of poking around in our life. Prayer is where we earnestly begin to seek God out for answers to life's complexities. Prayer is where we cry out to God to intervene in our circumstance. Prayer is where we humble ourselves before God's sovereign hand. Prayer then exposes the evil duplicity of our heart. Prayer is where we seek to know God's will, and it gets us into a mind frame of being able to rejoice and give thanks in spite of all that happens around us. Now, it may well be true that 2024 will present us with unprecedented challenges. And I trust that this chat will help you navigate some of that uncertainty in your own life moving forward. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to catching up with you another time. And remember, when life gets too hard to stand, it's probably a good time to start kneeling. Bye.